between Media Protocol and CanYa. Thrilled to be joining us from the other side of the world, or the land down under, is JB Thor, CEO of CanYa. Be great if you could just introduce yourself quickly to our community, JP.
Hey, James and the media team and the media community. I am John Paul, the CEO of CanYa, and we did our ICO actually last year, and we've been listed since January. We've been since then building our products, our ecosystem for a decentralized service space for the world, and our suite of tools to make that easy. So I'd love to chat to your community as well as our community today about what we've been up to, what we think of Media Protocol, and perhaps things that we can do together going forward. And in fact, just give me 2 seconds. I've got the YouTube link, so I'm just going to share that in my community. So we have
likewise.
Just give me 2 seconds.
Bit of cross-posting going on here because of Facebook issues. That should hopefully mean that people know where we're going to be at.
Cool. So it's posted live in my community. And I'll just do a tweet while I'm at it. So I'm multitasking here. AMA and live. Copy link. Twitter. Cool.
And around that with some LinkedIn as well.
Do it.
And actually, you mentioned your listing. It's a happy 7th-month anniversary for your listing, I believe.
Yeah, 8th of January was when we went live, back in the early days of KeyCoin. Man, that was such a long time ago. Yeah, it's been a wild ride since then. Join JP and James. Yeah, so we can definitely talk about what we learned since then.
Yeah, actually, I mean that's a great. That would be a great place to start. I mean, how do you see the landscape having changed since January, both project and market-wise?
Yeah, so obviously January, instantly 8th of January was the market all-time high of 830 billion for the entire cryptocurrency market cap. And since then, we've been in the universally sideways/bear market. So for us, it's been really working hard with our community. A lot's changed since then. The sentiments have changed, the amount of projects out there that have changed, the way the projects function, and even what communities look for out of the chosen project has also been a bit of a journey for us to go from January to August now. Mm-hmm. But we've had a really accepting, supportive community. Who have essentially subscribed to the vision of the decentralized service place. Shout outs to people like Lenny, Michael, Stephen, Enrique, list goes on, Lunch. We've got a whole bunch of core believers who just rally for us and work hard to support us across our social channels. And going forward, we are completely aligned with the notion that we need to always be present, always be delivering, always be engaged and in dialogue with our community, always be public and transparent and open about what's happening, and really work with our community. And we can push through this winter, we can push through the bear market, and in 6 to 12 months' time, when hopefully things turn around, then we're going to be strong. We'll have a loyal community. We'll have all these products in motion that are actually changing the way the world transacts in the gig economy. And we're going to be there, and we're going to do nicely, and the community is going to do really well as well.
So can you talk about some of the developments that you've been having between, say, like March, and then you had your big launch in July as well, and what's upcoming?
Yeah. So we spent the first 3 or 4 months really diving into pushing out a highly decentralized product. We launched that in early April to our community with things like a decentralized database, IPF for content, which is decentralized storage, Uport for login. And we launched that to a group of pioneers. And we found that everyone had a lot of problem with the user experience of going into a decentralized application. We thought it was going to be easy. That was our mistake. So we had to go back to the drawing board and concede a little bit in terms of how much we decentralize, because largely the technology isn't ready it's not ready to scale. The user experience is terrible, which we need to fix. So from April, May, June, we spent a whole bit of time rebuilding, re-engineering the user experience and in doubling down on how much time and thought we put into how the user experience went. So that by the time July came around, we'd pushed out Can Work. And at the same time, our dev team had been focusing on building out free dApps that the world can use, like Can Sign, signing documents with Ethereum address, Can Send, sending tokens around, Can Share using IPFS to share large files around the world. So we weren't slacking up. We're delivering products. We've delivered about 7 Can apps so far. And we've got another big one to go sometime later this month, which is CanSeek, our decentralized hiring platform. But it's been a journey of, we push hard in decentralization. We realized there's some fundamental problems with scalability and user experience. So we took a few steps back, re-engineered, we launched again in July, and we've come over with a lot of experience for that now. So it should do us really nicely into CanSeek, relaunching the DAO. The DAO's been live since March, but again, like paying $2 to do a DAO transaction is just unacceptable for us. We want our users to do 1,000 transactions and maybe pay 2 cents. And that's just not there yet. We need to get deep into state channels, payment channels through a partner's seller network. And again, the earliest that seller will be pushing out their product is in October/November. So we're on the bleeding edge, the point where we have to hold back on features because the infrastructure isn't ready. So yeah, and literally we're working right now a product called Can Pay and Can Exchange. And we noticed that when you jump on a platform when you want to buy something in cryptocurrency, you have this weird MetaMask pop up or it throws a QR code at you or whatever. And especially when you send tokens around, there's actually, if you deal with ERC20, there's actually 2 transactions, the approve and then the transfer from. So the user experience is really bad. So we built what we call Can Pay. It's a module that can be built anywhere. In fact, I encourage Media Protocol to take Can Pay, our code, it's open source, rebadge it to be Media Protocol Pay or Media Pay, because it solves the user experiences around users understanding the flow, the payment flow. And additionally, we're building Can Exchange, which we're really excited about, which allows our users to pay in Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ether, any ERC20, even gold, stable coins, credit card, hopefully, and PayPal, perhaps, so that they simply pay as they might normally, credit card, PayPal, whatever. It's a very easy, seamless experience. They don't need to do KYC or any of that stuff because they're paying $50 to pay a designer. They're not paying $50 to buy Ethereum. So we hope as well Media Protocol adopt our Can Exchange widget to get liquidity into your token. So there's things like that we can work together.
Certainly on the redemption side of things, that can appeal. If you've got a content creator who's wanting to accept Media Protocol token and then they want to be paid in it, but they want to then redeem it in something else, that makes a huge amount of sense. That's fantastic. You mentioned the user experience level, and actually just for anyone who's clear on who's following us on the YouTube live, JP's not talking about the user experience of his apps. CanYa team build really nice, easy to use, clean applications. He's talking about the user experience of crypto full stop, which is something that we're certainly very, we're strong advocates of as well. And one of the big challenges, so the layer of challenges that we see, we've got the layer 1 protocols. So those are the people like the Stellars, the Tendermints, the Zilicas of this world who are trying to get transaction speeds up and transaction costs down. But what CanYa and Media Protocol are both trying to achieve is to ensure that it's easier for you, me, your grandmother, your sister, the man on the street who doesn't care about the fact that we're using blockchains or care about the fact that it's really crypto, to be able to use this to kind of revolutionize their lives. Because right now there's a huge amount of friction that they're encountering. You mentioned PayPal as a potential integration. I mean, PayPal's just a potential. I can never remember my PayPal address. I can never remember which account I've got attached to it. I end up just punching in a credit card. So there's been some activity going on in the market. I mean, you mentioned like the wallets and the way that you guys are building it out. I love the fact that you're building out all these different layers. You're not just one of these projects that gone, oh, okay, we're going to do something. We're going to create a decentralized place for gig economy, and we're just going to create that and leave it at that. You've gone and looked at actually what it means to operate in the gig economy, what you need to have as an experience, how you want people to be able to scale. And in fact, I think that I was reading through some of your stuff over the weekend, just to a bit of prep, refresh as well. And it strikes me that it's not just the gig economy. You're building infrastructure that means small businesses around the world can grow and scale on top of this as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just had a question come through from the community on YouTube. When does CanPay, which is one of those core bits of infrastructure, get launched? So the payment side is actually live on CanWork right now. If you jump on CanWork and you pay someone, you buy me a coffee, you go to someone's profile and you pay them a coffee, pay them on Can, to Can, go through experience, up pops this module which pings your MetaMask and walks you through the process. But the one we're really excited about is Can Exchange, which is the next step from that, which allows you to get liquidity in. And the question is, when is that going to get launched? That will be hopefully in the next few weeks, and we'll be progressively adding more currencies to that. So as James said, we're building infrastructure. And my open offer to you, James, is you better be using CanPay and Can Exchange for media pay or media exchange. And we can work out how to share the code and make it work.
Sure. I mean, this can work quite nicely with some projects that we're looking at right now. So we're currently discussing with a number of large partners. In fact, JP was at Digital Future Council with us and saw how well many of the marketeers and people in the advertising world getting excited about Media Protocol. And what we're trying to work out with them there is redemption model, something that works really, really well. And how's your growth going on, like on CanWork? You guys still seeing that crazy user growth that you guys had earlier in the year as well?
Yeah, so we had about 400 people apply to be pioneers and ambassadors. We held a bit of a gate to it because we wanted high profile people to be on the platform, and largely we got that. We had Victor Redchenko, the CEO of Trust Platform, which recently got bought by Binance, being one of our ambassadors. We also got some awesome other heavy hitters from around the world, really decentralized, who wanted to be part of our initial launch, and they're still on the platform. Over the next few weeks/months, we'll start opening up the gates to bring more and more people on the platform and solve the payment problems around that. I just had another question from YouTube. When will crypto cards, e.g. Monaco card, be using Can? Really great question. Our community has been following us along, and that they know that we've had this ongoing discussion with Monaco, the crypto.com debit cards. I myself have a debit card reserved, and I encourage everyone to jump onto crypto.com and download the app and reserve a crypto card, because it means that you can start turning your crypto into groceries and paying for stuff like Visa. The question is, when will Can be integrated? Well, we've got an ongoing relationship with Monaco. As soon as we feel that we've solved everything on our side, the user experience, and we want to look at the redemption side. So we're going to focus on getting liquidity into Can first, get it in the escrow, get users and providers talking to each other, engaging. And then when all that Can gets into the wallets, the provider's wallet, then we can look at how can the provider exit to gold, exit to stablecoin, or exit to the MCO wallet. MCO is a custodial solution. So in, say, your Trust wallet, you store the private key, so you own your crypto but with MCO crypto.com's card, you essentially they hold the crypto for you because they're a custodial provider. Perfectly safe, and they will probably have better security than individuals yourselves, but also it just means that you can do instant settlement. So I can walk up to the 7-Eleven and instantly buy a bottle of water, and then they can do the transfer at perfect bank interchange rates, not a 10% spread like normal banks. And there's no fees and payment. So yeah, definitely jump on.
So solving the challenge that, I mean, we all saw the press release that kind of caught Seattle unaware, or the Seattle Coffee Company unaware, the whole Bitcoin for macchiatos or frappuccinos. So what you're building there would allow Starbucks to actually do that, as opposed to the challenges that they would have seen about implementing it with their current options.
Yeah, so Starbucks have said there'll be a custodial solution. So you will load Bitcoin onto the Starbucks wallet in some manner, and they will instantly convert it into USD. So it's custodial. But they didn't deny that one day you could just pay with raw Bitcoin. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, you're right. We need to solve these ins and outs so that we can very easily use it in our day-to-day lives and actually make it useful, make it a store of value minimum exchange. And largely, if I could have all my cash in crypto and have a credit card where, I use CanWork to earn, I'm a freelancer, then I have a credit card which is linked to my CanWork wallet, and then I can literally finish doing a job, get paid $100 for designing a logo, walk down to a 7-Eleven and buy my groceries for the night. That's what we're trying to achieve. Still a long way away from it, but we'll get there.
And actually, you mentioned Binance acquiring Trust Wallet. Do you see that as good news for you guys?
It's huge news. Victor and the team are very smart. They're very passionate. They're very focused on building the best user experience. Obviously, Binance are well, steaming ahead, and CZ, the CEO of Binance, is very focused on creating the best experience around solving all these problems, why he's moved to Malta, and he's really trying to solve creating an ecosystem. And as part of that is having self-sovereign wealth. And Trust is awesome because you own the private keys to your crypto. And indeed, the new multi-coin wallet means you'll be able to keep the Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero maybe, and all your Ether and Ethereum tokens in one single Trust wallet. And we're very excited to see how, Trust is a decentralized wallet. With Binance, they're building a decentralized exchange soon. So we're interested to see how it's all going to work together. But yeah, decentralized exchanges are another huge thing I'm very passionate about.
Okay, so dive into that quickly. Do you see them as a beneficial thing, or do you see them as creating some other challenges?
Yeah, so obviously there are massive implementation problems at the moment, but I'll give you two case points from two DEXs that we're using at the moment. One is not really a DEX, it's Bancor. The continuous liquidity contracts allow us to convert CAN and vice versa ETH and a variety of tokens in and out of CAN quite easily using just a smart contract call. And the cost is around about 50 cents to do the conversion. Kyber is another one where we're integrating soon to allow us, it's even cheaper and faster, to allow us to convert CAN into stablecoins, gold, Digix gold token, which we're very passionate about, getting our providers getting paid in gold. And CanYa never wants to have a centralized front end or centralized back end at all, because that's a security risk. So getting decentralized exchanges working and fast and cheap to use, for me, I think it's a little bit unacceptable to have 50 cents conversion fee. It should be 1 cent conversion fee. That's still a while away.
Yeah.
But decentralized exchanges have currently today poor user experience. They are either hybrids where they have on-chain or off-chain mixes between the order books and the settlements and where the assets are stored. So they make compromises. They are slow and they're expensive. I do think all of this can be solved with the right infrastructure and the right protocol. And I'm very excited to see what Binance do with the Binance chain. Incidentally, one of our developers actually is moved off is working on the Binance chain right now. So we're very excited to have that kind of link with Binance.
Also making sure you guys are like front of the top of the list for when they start rolling that out hugely, right?
Yeah, well, we trained him up, we tutored him, we mentored him, and he was good enough to be hired by Binance. So it's awesome.
So, moving across slightly into Asia, you guys were part of the JD.com accelerator. How's that been for you guys?
Yeah, so the JD accelerator was put up to help some chosen blockchain companies build a solution which JD could use, as well as the rest of the world could look into. So and use, and to kind of showcase what blockchain can do. Not necessarily crypto, but definitely blockchain. So alongside the other teams in the accelerator, we looked at a wide range of different things we can do. And actually out of that was born CanSeek. So we set out to look at hiring talent around the world. At the time, JD was having difficulty, but they're growing and they wanted to look at talent hiring around the world. So we tackled the problem. We thought, well, how can we solve talent hiring? And we realized that we can solve a lot of the problems by reversing the economic incentives. So since about May, we've been working on CanSeek with a team in Beijing, and the fruits of that labor are coming out this month. It's called CanSeek. So basically, when we hire a developer, and we've hired a few off recruiters, we're paying 10 to 20% of their salary in fees, which could be as high as 20, 30 grand. We just had to cop it. But we thought, hey, hang on a minute, why don't we change the economic incentives so that the company puts up a job post and puts up a reward, 5 or 10 grand worth of the token, and it lives on a blockchain escrow. Then anyone in the world can then see that job post and apply. They could be the talent themselves, they could be a recruitment agency recommending one of the talents, or they could just be a friend or the family of the talent themselves. And then there's an application fee to prevent spam. And the winner, the company decides the winner and go, all right, I'm going to hire James to be the developer. And guess what? You win the entire honeypot plus anyone else's application fees. So you could get a new job and you could get a massive $5,000 reward on day one. And that completely reverses economic incentives. It aligns everyone, reduces spam, increases the quality. And we're very excited to have about 5 blockchain companies go live with us. Doc, Digix, Block72, there's a couple else out there. You check out our website, cansic.io, going live this month to show the world how you can do decentralized talent hiring, making everyone their own recruiter.
Awesome. That's a fascinating approach, especially considering how constrained hiring is in this market as well. So how do you guys operate? We had a brief chat on liquidity and stablecoins. How do you guys address the volatility that happens with crypto?
That's a very good question. So we don't hedge the entire market cap or the entire escrow. We simply hedge on a per transaction basis to make sure that $100 in is $100 out, no matter what the CAN token is doing. So what we do is we record the USD value or the yen value, or whatever they decide on, as it enters the contract. So $100, let's say CAN is 10 cents, that's 1,000 CAN, goes into the contract. But we record that the agreed rate was $100 US. When 2 weeks later, the payment is released, there's a quick check to see the current price of CAN from the Bancor price feed. If CAN has gone down by 20%, then we have a hedging contract made of gold, Digix coin, as well as USD stablecoin that then essentially looks to hedge by paying out the correct amount of CAN, which would be 1,200 CAN instead of 1,000 CAN, to the provider. And then immediately the hedge using Bancor buys into the escrow to top up the 200 CAN that was used to cover the 20%. And that has a corrected price action. Likewise, if the CAN price went up by 20%, then we still pay $100 worth of CAN to the provider, all fees included, and we siphon off the 200 CAN in order to be used to protect another transaction's downside in future. So the escrow has a growing amount of CAN that's used to underwrite all the transactions to prevent mass volatility swings. And initially we have about 100 grand worth of stablecoin sitting over here. And initial kind of tests and simulations means, well, we reckon that 100K worth of this hedge can protect up to $1 million in the escrow based on the current volatility that we've seen because of the corrected price action, and it's completely automated. And we're not essentially one transaction's upside could be another transaction's downside. So we cover everything. But yeah, we're very excited. It's still in theoretical stage in research phase, but towards this year we'll push that out and it should work. Thanks, guys.
Cool. We've had a couple of stuff come in from the community. So if a freelancer already offers advertising or content marketing services, how easy would it be for them to learn to use and implement media protocol into their own work? So if you're a creator, if you're blogging or you're doing videos, there would be 2 ways to operate. So the first one is we're working on a publisher portal. So if you own the URL, you're able to put a little bit of script into it. You then hold media protocol tokens and parameterize how you want those to be shared. Those are then distributed based on reading, liking, sharing, so on and so forth. We're aiming to remove as much of the technical friction as possible. We don't want you as a creator to have to learn how to write Solidity. So we're building this publisher portal, which is going to be basically as straightforward as buying Google Ads. So much like CanYa, we're trying to remove the friction of the 99.9% of people who don't know how to operate this stuff on a base level and create it in a way that's actually going to work for you. So one of the reasons that we're doing this AMA is that CanYa's blog content and updates are going to be appearing in Crypto Catnip. So www.getcryptocatnip.com. It's a great way of aggregating your crypto news. And we built it initially as a way of just hoovering a bunch of sites. And there's lots of stuff in there about regulation and various exchanges, and you can just find all of this in here. And we figured that knowing the community as we do, actually what communities care about is projects. And what's great is when you have people in your in Telegram groups, that's fab, but we all follow lots and lots of them. So we want this to Crypto Cat to be the best place to stay up to date with the top ICO news. So you will get, there will be MPT testnet tokens attached to the content right now. As we move over to mainnet, those will then be allocated to people as we grow. So yeah, Media Protocol is making it super easy for people to implement into their own content or implement into the sites they work with. And so the way that you'd see it, where you can see it, say, crossing over with, say, CanYa, someone creates content about these services that they offer. Lots of people do. We see people say dribble pages if you are a freelancer. They could look to promote those out to their, their Instagram followers, their LinkedIn followers, their whatever. As people are promoting them for them, that brings people back. They may get hired or approached more through, say, the CanYa side of things. That's how we'd also implement it into, say, what you'd call the internal CanYa marketing mix. I mean, externally for CanYa on the marketing mix. You guys, as you grow, are you looking to? A lot of people have asked, when does large scale advertising and media presence start? I guess you've answered half of that question already, JP, by saying when you solve some of the scalability and operability problems, challenges that you're facing.
Yeah, exactly. I really see that you guys. In fact, have you looked at, since you're using Zilliqa for Media Protocol?
We're actually in conversations with Zilliqa about how we could work with them. We're also speaking to Elf, Stellar, Elf, Stellar, and mine's just gone blank. Yeah, we're having conversations with Zilliqa. I mean, Radix is another one that we're looking at.
Yeah, because they support high sharded, high throughput transactions, which are actually designed quite nicely for the media industry, where it's just these tiny transactions to track stuff, and you don't need to be overly complex. So
and that's how ours really aren't. We're using blockchain as a settlement layer. You've got the relationship here is you've got a piece of content, it gets promoted. You have tokens, you have activity. The activities, all that's written to the blockchain basically is that wallet XYZ performed said action and a token was issued. Actual consumer data goes backwards and forwards between the person issuing the tokens and the consumer itself. We're not writing all the metadata to the blockchain. Had some confusing conversations with some people a few weeks ago who were adamant that we needed to decentralize all the consumer data and that all belonged on the blockchain. And you're like, I think I don't want to create multiple points of failure. I think we need to be very, very, very careful around that. But yeah, Zilliqa's a very interesting one. Elf, Neo, Stellar. Radix is fascinating. They're a UK project. But with Media Protocol, we're focused on almost as much on interoperability as we are on specific chain solutions. Because with large brands and publishers and the types that we approach, there are some already who are building out their own blockchains. I mean, these are the same businesses that in the early 90s when building out their own email clients because they figured they kind of wanted to. So we need to be able to support as much as possible. I mean, you guys married to ERC20? I know you've been talking to Stella quite a lot. Are you just keeping
no, look, we're very bullish on Casper V2 and the second layer solutions for Ethereum like Stellar and Connection and Counterfactuals, etc. And even still, ERC20 is definitely not an ideal token. We wish we'd deployed an ERC223 because it's a better user experience. So we have to keep our finger on the pulse. We have to be ready to move, and we have to, just be flexible, be technology agnostic. Because we're not building the protocol layer. We are building some infrastructure, but largely we sit at the application layer. So we need to be ready to adapt to the infrastructure and the architecture that's being built.
I mean, philosophically, this is very interesting because you guys sit like us, almost like layer two infrastructure, sort of physically putting it into people's hands. Exactly. What do we think needs to work? I mean, there's a lot of focus, a lot of capital that flows into layer ones. Do you think there's enough projects working on those right now? Do you think we need to be worried more about? Do we think more adoption comes from layer two than from layer one?
Look, layer one is not ready. If Ethereum could do 1 cent transactions processed in a second, then layer one would be ready. But it's not. And largely, I don't think that layer one should be that. I'm bullish on layer two. But then if you get into layer 2, that's nowhere near ready. So it needs to go, plasma chain is still, not usable. I mean, it's usable in highly specific cases. Raiden is launching soon, but that's not really usable. Stellar connection counterfactual is still very much in research phase, 6 to 12 months out. So to be honest, James, I reckon we're looking at another 2 years before the infrastructure is ready. So we just have to stay centralized. We desperately want to be decentralized because it means that we can scale and be big and get our community involved and grow faster. But we have to concede a little bit of defeat that the layer 1 and layer 2 aren't ready for us to be completely decentralized and just hang back and be flexible.
Yeah, we work on a hybrid model ourselves. We treat a lot of the layer 1 basically as being currently in POC. And the scale of transactions that we're looking to do, 10,000 transactions a second, scaled out roughly gets you Reddit's registered user base, and then which would be transactions that you might be able to look to incentivize through, say, Reddit. We run a hybrid solution right now. It means that we can deploy. It means that we can work with people who are wanting to experiment. And this is really important notion. I think that a lot of the community sometimes struggle with is when we talk about getting people deployed and getting people using this. It's actually not so much the technology that we're really trying to get into organizations. It's the mindset and the way of thinking and the way that they can rip up the existing diagram and challenge their business models as much as anything. That's work that they need to start doing right now. It's work they need to get involved in heavily and think about. And actually, the technology piece is really quite straightforward. I mean, blockchain itself is it's not the world's easiest technology to work with, but it's not intractable. We know what the problems are that need to be solved. The bigger challenges for actually getting mass adoption sit in changing the mindset and the economic mindset of individuals and companies.
Yeah, exactly. Got a question here from the community, Steve Dixon. JP, CanYa has been flying on the radar for quite a while for good reason. Your latest announcement was Trust has incorporated CanYa into the dApps. What effect should this have on CanYa? So this is a usability and user experience play. Trust is the best wallet to store Ethereum, ERC20 tokens, and very, very soon a whole bunch of other tokens like Bitcoin. And incorporating into the dApp browser was key for us to provide mobile compatibility without getting down the rabbit hole of issuing an iOS app, which can be banned off the App Store. We've seen that a few times, or an Android app, which could be forked and cloned and phished. So incorporating inside Trust's dApp browser, which is a trusted dApp browser, means that we get exposure to 260,000 Trust users. We get direct integration into the architecture, which means they can pay inside the Trust wallet. They can, it's excellent. And at the moment, Trust has been quite generous to us, and we're actually at the, let me show you, we're at the top of the list there for the browser on the token browser, the dApp browser. So check it out, download it. It's trustwalletup.com, and you can check out how CanWork operates inside the Trust browser. So here, just loading it up there. So this is the Trust wallet, the dApp browser, and CanYa is right at the top there.
Awesome.
And you can also scroll a bit further down. You can see it. We're at the top of the marketplaces at the moment. So that's very exciting. Yeah,
that's super cool. Can you talk to us a little bit about the HODL Club? This is something that I find fascinating that you guys have built up, and it's been going for 6 months, and it's coming up to 6 months at the end of August. But what is it? What are the next steps with it?
The HODL Club for us, we always saw it as a bridge into our DAO. Now, our DAO, our decentralized autonomous organization, is a permissionless DAO where people enter and stake tokens. When they enter and stake tokens, it means they now become economically aligned with us. Once they prove they're economically aligned, not with us, but the community, then they can see a whole bunch of tasks that need to be done that can help support the community. And they just sit there and they start earning all day. But when DAO wasn't going to be ready for 6 to 12 months, and that was always in our roadmap because of the complexities. And even though we've had an accelerated timeline on the DAO, there's still some issues with technology to make it user-friendly. But we We want our HODL club to actually move into becoming the DAO. We have about 600 people in our HODL club. And if we open up our DAO and have 600 of our hodlers in there being aligned with us and being engaged, just as engaged as they are, we are off to the races. And that's our core community, loyal core community that we want to keep rewarding, keep including inside our decision making and the way we think and products to come to market. But more importantly, get them into the DAO, because that's where they can really go hands off and get dirty and get up to the elbows into helping us.
Awesome. And so the DAO's, when's the DAO going to be open for everyone to use?
Yeah, so we are very close. Like I said, we still find it unacceptable that someone needs to pay $2 to do a transaction. So we're working on making a hybrid. We're not really happy with this, but there's some things we can do. For example, like if I jump on and I see 100 $1 tasks, like I said, it's unacceptable to pay a 50-cent fee each time on a dollar task, because I'll walk away with $50, not $100. We want to get them as close as possible to the $100 that they deserve and not spend half of it on mining fees. So we're doing a couple of things. One is we are batching transactions. So they do a 50 transactions. So they might have a little ticker clicking up, okay, 51, 52, 53, 54, $100. And then they can hit withdraw, and there's just one transaction with one 50-cent fee. And now they get 99.5% of what they deserve. That is better, batching, but it means that user experience isn't ideal, because what if they just want $20, not $100? So we have to think about the limits there. We are trying to work with our partners like Seller Network, which basically what they're going to do is they create a state channel with our DAO, and now they can do unlimited amounts of transactions with our DAO, and it's no cost. So we'll be able to literally pay them 1 cent with no cost. And so they create one chain transaction to create the channel, 50 cents. Then they sit there trustlessly and earn 1 cent, easy. And it's trustlessly their money, their can that they've earned. If they then want to exit the channel, they can splice it out and take out the $100 or $20 for another on-chain transaction. But it means that while they trust that the state channel works, they can literally get paid 1 cent for no cost. So that's the ultimate aim, but Seller's not ready October, November. So in the meantime, we're going to go try hybrid with the batching and a few other things. And yeah, we'll go from there. But there's a lot of, very much like the DAO. We've got
we use batching in CryptoCanYa actually. So you can see your promoted actions working there, and you can go across and you can then claim tokens that then go up in a sort of one number, as opposed to just having to, as you said, same challenge that we're facing. You're not going to do like $1. If you're saying it's going to be 5 cents worth for a read or a share or a like, it can become really, really tractable. Cool. Okay, so another question that's come in: how does Media Protocol reward users? Who determines the value? Okay, so Media Protocol doesn't actually reward the users. The person who creates the content or is promoting the content rewards the users. So they define a set of parameters in the smart contract. So they create a smart wallet on the blockchain. In that are the URLs, the destinations of the content. That content could be audio, it could be visual, it could be text, it could be anything. And then they put in a bunch of Media Protocol tokens, and they define how they want to give them away, how they want to reward people. That could be extra like, extra read, extra share, and then how far down through the network they want that to go. So the decision is very much in the hands of the people who create the content. So Media Protocol is an open source set of tools that allows people to actually bring more clarity and visibility to how their content is shared. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is what we're doing. And we've been discussing like hybrids, we've been discussing the challenges about the scalability. We know there are plenty of people working on it. So JP, what are the developments in blockchain that are exciting you the most right now?
Look, I love layer 2. I think that's where we're headed to multi-layer future. So anything in layer 2 excites me. And all the developments, all the projects around layer 2 will make blockchain useful, because when we built the internet, it's a multi-layer internet. We have the base transport layer, TCP IP. Then on top of that, we build APIs. On top of that is the web interface layer, the UI, UX layer. So it's like a multi-3-layer ecosystem. And that's what we're doing with blockchain. So we've got layer 1 that defines and secures value. Yeah. And we need to build layer 2, like the Lightning Network, the correct economic centers or dollar or state channels on top of the Ethereum. And then we can, once layer 2 is solid and working and built, then we can focus on layer 3, which is probably going to be APIs that hook into layer 2. And then there might even be a layer 4. Layer 4 is the usability UX layer. So trying to build an entire dApp on layer 1 is a waste of time. And as an example, CryptoKitties is all built on layer 1. And that's why it's not usable. It's not fast. And even Auger's dApp, it's $40 to open a market. I find that unacceptable. It should be 4 cents.
Yeah.
So Auger need to transition to layer 2 and then eventually layer 3. And that's where we want to be. We know we have to be there, so that's why we're waiting. So yeah, anything in layer 2 excites me. And Casper V2. That excites me.
There's just plenty of stuff going on all the time, which is just fantastic. Cool. So yeah, we get asked a lot of this. We get asked this a lot. We get asked a lot while we're open source. I mean, you guys are open source as well. My response is pretty straightforward. That I don't believe you can have true innovation without open sourcing huge amounts of what you do. And actually, the real innovation comes from your community that can then contribute and can make great ideas. But the real value that you add to things is by being able to iterate quickly. If you're constantly trying to keep hold of your proprietary edge, then you're massively overestimating your technical capabilities and your vision for the market. That's why we're open source. We believe in collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. We're open source as well because we're building an open, malicious community that can eventually take over the development and do it themselves. And that's why we're open source. And we're not going to see true innovation, like you said, until we unlock the code and get everyone in the world using it and adopting it. So yeah, completely agree.
That's always useful. It's always good to be in agreement. There's lots of conversations going on in the market right now around security tokens. We've seen that people presenting it as some sort of panacea idea, which I personally find limits blockchain to one use case, which is to be an alternative to shares. And there's a lot of question marks around utility tokens because they've been with what's been discussed in certain jurisdictions. But we're a utility token, so are you. What do you see as the benefits of utility tokens?
So utility tokens have the option to create a tokenized economy that basically wrap into network effects of their users. And they don't need to focus on just being sold in medium exchange or store of value or whatever. They can focus on really tapping into unique, essentially unique ideas that have never been built before, like token curated registries, staking into DAOs, medium exchange with rewards, et cetera, referral rewards, micropayments. It means we can do some cool, exciting stuff. Nobody's stopping us. So we just got to get out there and go for it.
Yeah, I mean, the key one, and I'm on record saying this quite a bit, is that I think security tokens allow projects to just ignore the question of why blockchain. And if you're not, there are lots of great tech companies out there, and there are lots of great tech companies which are, for some reason, saying that they're using the blockchain to do something when in reality, what they're seeing it as is an opportunity to try and raise capital. True blockchain project, I mean, it took us 18 months of hard work and hard thinking to come up with what we deemed was an appropriate token model. I mean, this isn't stuff that just appears right out of the ether, if you'll pardon the pun. And you know, it's super fascinating to see how lots of people are trying to discard utility, and I think that's the future. The future of blockchain. I think that the ability to use it to raise capital and to actually incentivize your community and to create these new economies is absolutely fantastic. But you need to be doing it as a blockchain project, and this then gets us into this question mark around regulation and mass adoption. We believe that we have to lean into the legislator and also to the regulator. There's been a lot of talk about, if it looks like if it's not a Bitcoin or it's not an Ethereum, then it's a security. This is absolutely nonsense, because if my grandmother is sharing links on a newspaper and she's being rewarded with tokens, and then let's say that she wants to get a logo designed for her WI meeting. There we go, Women's Institute meeting. There's no reason that she can't take the tokens that she's accumulated on Media Protocol and then use them to pay someone via CanYa to do said work. This is a pure utility approach.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And we are definitely creating something new. For so long, only governments have been allowed to create their own currency, which is legal. And while we're not creating currencies, we're creating polymorphic asset classes that can have the shape of currencies, assets, rewards, etc. But it's not really us. It's up to our community to define that value. And we're open source for a reason. Anyone in our community can jump in our code base and help us push in a certain direction. Maybe they want to turn the CAN token into something else. Then by all means, help us build it. That's why we're doing what we're doing. But I agree. It's time for us to change. We are going to get into a long tail of the liquid economy, and with cool protocols like Bancor, Kyber, and the soon-to-be other decentralized exchanges like Binance, I think we're going to have a new world of liquidity, and it's going to be very exciting. And it's going to be liberating, and again, it's give us the freedom to move around and join and leave digital communities as we see fit, without having someone else, an overseeing big brother, define us to who we are by where we were born or what we look like. We should be completely free, liberal, and that being able to move around. And certainly there should be a massive separation between money and the state.
Sure.
The state should not control the money. In fact, there should be just a global currency supply, like what we used to have with gold standard. Then we moved away from that, and we let countries and governments endlessly print their own fiat currency for inflation or recovering from wars or whatever. So we need to move away from that. Yeah. We need to move towards a better standard. I think it's going to be the gold standard and finally the Bitcoin standards, because they have the ideal currency properties, median value and a store exchange. And why do we need to keep printing and trying to stimulate the economy endlessly? Because that just ends up in lots of waste and lots of unnecessary growth and higher growth than normal, unsustainable growth. We should be.
It ends up in higher levels of economic separation between the haves and the have-nots. You end up with the absolutely insane controls. I mean, the insane control of capital sitting at one end in a very, very small portion, and then basically nothing else left elsewhere. It's going to be intriguing to see how growth does need to sustain, but it's nothing but a construct of human imagination that U.S. banking laws allow banks to lend $10 for every dollar that they have, therefore turning their effective. That's what builds that current engine of capitalist growth. It's fascinating. We talked about, you touched briefly on this global community and global economy. Highly aware this is not the most diverse conversation or the diverse AMA of all time, but it's something that I find fascinating. I've been part of a number of tech cycles. I did a lot of my tech in Europe and London, but the blockchain movement is the first one that I've been part of that's truly global. None of the internet cycles were global. They were very much focused in pockets of Europe, pockets of the US, and pockets of Asia. But it's amazing to travel and meet so many people. And the unifying characteristic that I find in the community is no one really gives a crap about race, color, creed, sexuality, religion. People are far more sapio in this approach and wanting to understand, looking for good people, looking for good ideas, looking for new opportunities. And it's
I totally agree. Yeah. It's because the code, it has no prejudice. It's just maths, right? There's rules but no rulers. There's order from chaos. And if we talk about a global currency like Bitcoin, which you can't steal Bitcoin, you can't print Bitcoin, you can't even kind of see someone's Bitcoin. So I think that if we just adopt the Bitcoin as the world standard currency, we're going to see an unprecedented level of free trade, a stable and a peaceful world economy where we're not having to fight wars with each other because you can't pinch my Bitcoin. Good luck trying. I mean, I could be here in Australia, but the Australian community could store all the Bitcoin in Antarctica in a node that's connected via satellites. You know what I mean? So you can't pinch my Bitcoin. So what's the point of trying to start a war with me? And because it's global and it's this global currency that you can't fight, I think we're going to enter a new world of prosperity and peace and stability if we just ditched these government-controlled currencies. And then we haven't even talked about data. Immutable protocol is certainly about data sovereignty. So once we get across the bridge of wealth sovereignty, which is going to happen pretty quickly, then we're going to get into data and identity sovereignty, where I can just freely wander around the world, where I see purpose, where I find purpose, and take my identity, my wealth, and my data with me. and know that's not going to be used against me. And immutable protocol is something else to realize and achieve that. And honestly, in the next 3 to 5, 10 years, we're going to find it untenable to be in a position where we're trusting a third party to look after any aspect of our identity, our data, or our wealth. Right now, I have to trust my bank that's going to uphold my cash. I've got to trust my insurance provider that's going to uphold my insurance claims, my government to keep my identity safe. When it just gets crazy. But in 5 years' time, my wealth's going to be owned. My identity is going to be my own. I can do peer-to-peer lending, peer-to-peer insurance, peer-to-peer everything. I don't need to trust anyone. It's all in the code. And that's where we're headed. And like I said, we're going to have a new era of peace, prosperity, freedom for everyone, no prejudice. We don't care where you come from. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. And away we go. And CanYa will be there helping the world earn cryptocurrency for those services. And media will be there helping us realize data sovereignty and to reverse economic sense between publishers of content.
Well, actually, to stop us getting spammed or hell and chased around, actually allow creators to create, and instead of having to create clickbait that gets us to addicted to nonsense metrics. Just wanted to touch on something because we were in Cannes together at Digital Future Council, and this is actually an interesting bridge, I think, for us to probably wrap this one up on as well. So DFC was created as an intersection between technology, advertising, media, creativity, and it's a huge number of blockchain people arrived in Cannes, as did about 120 of the world's leading CMOs. And for me, it was one of the first experiences. I've been to conferences where you see people from the enterprise world sort of showing up around the edges. But for me, this is one of the first opportunities where we had mass engagement from what you would call the traditional world, or a lot of the centralized entities. And what I found fascinating was just how up for embracing this change these kinds of people were. Once we broke free of the technology piece and exactly how all this stuff worked and got into what they could use it for, I felt there was a great deal of it put a huge amount of faith in my vision for how this is going to get adopted and how people are going to start using it. I mean, how did you find the experience?
Yeah, the Digital Futures Council was awesome. We had a huge coming together of minds, and for the first time ever, I felt that blockchain is really resetting the industries as we know it, and the smart, forward-thinking people are coming together from a variety of industries across the world. We had people from Lego, we had people from IBM who were there, etc., who were at Spotify even, who had come together and were really trying to tackle the question of how to make blockchain meaningful and useful in our day-to-day lives. And having that come together in minds from hugely different industry verticals was awesome.
Yeah, it was really it was massively strong, and this is something that some people agree, some people disagree. That the approach can be, well, no wonder they don't like that. That we have to burn the world down to sort of create this new decentralization. I actually don't believe that's the case. I see so many businesses, so many movers and shakers in this space realizing that they've got to change with the times, that the technology waves need to be on top of them or you're underneath them. And that brings a huge amount of hope for me. Actually, one final question that's coming from the community. One of your apps was CanSend. What is CanSend?
So CanSend is a multi-token sender, allowing anyone to do an airdrop very, very easily. So jump on. If you want to airdrop to your family, your friends, community, or even your ICO, jump on and use CanSend, and it can punch out for very low cost all your tokens.
Awesome stuff. Great. Well, if there's anything else from the community, anything else from you, JP?
That's good. I'm great. It was great to chat today, James. We had an engaging community, and let's keep fighting the good fight.
Cool. And everyone, don't forget to go and check out getcryptocatnip.com or download it from either App Store, because that's how you're going to stay up to date with not just news about the crypto world, but all the ongoings and exciting futures of the likes of the CanYas of this world. And we'll be hearing from JP again soon.
Yes. Awesome.
Cheers, man.
Thank you. See you guys.